Hi there, students. A shadow of your former self. A shell of one's former self. A husk of one's former self. Okay, your former self, this is how you used to be. This is talking about a change that's taken place. So this restaurant is a shadow of its former self. It's not the brilliant restaurant that it used to be. It's just a shadow of its former self. He started taking drugs, and nowadays he is a shadow of his former self. He's not the person that he used to be. He came out of the hospital cured, but he's still a shadow of his former self. He's not the person he used to be. He's a withdrawn, subdued version of his former self. Okay, so your former self is how you were before. Former and latter. Former, it's like a previous self, a previous life. Our lives all go through changes, and we change, and we could talk about former selves. These are me's that don't exist anymore. They used to exist. So a shadow of one's former self, a person or a place or a group that is much less healthy, much less lively, without the vivaciousness, not as robust as it used to be because of some traumatic accident, some terrible event. Let's see, the company Kodak used to be an enormous company, but now it's just a shadow of its former self. Or this town is a shadow of its former self. It used to have a very big shipbuilding industry, but the shipbuilding stopped and the business shut down, and now it is a shadow of its former self. So it's not how it used to be. Let's see, if you could be a shell of one's former self. Yeah, you don't have as much vigor, you're not as lively, you're not what you used to be. Let's see, there's a line by Sir Walter Scott. He appeared to wither into the shadow of himself. So the shell of one's former self, yeah, dramatically less healthy. You're not what you used to be. You've changed. Things are not the same. So to have less health, less strength, less influence. Okay, when she did go out, she was a shell of her former self. She was not the lively, vivacious person she used to be. After decades of war, the population is a shell of its former self. The school is a shadow of its former self. It's very different. It has changed very radically. It's not as strong, as powerful as it used to be. It's become a ghost of its former self, much weaker, much frailer than it used to be, a husk of its former self. So your former self, you're an earlier persona, an earlier identity, a previous version of yourself. So what you were before. But particularly this phrase, a shadow of your former self, you're not as strong or capable as you used to be. A shell of your former self, just something that is empty, without the power and vivacity that it used to be. Weaker compared to the previous version. So The town is now a shadow of its former self due to the decline in the motor industry. Okay, so a shadow, a shell, a husk, um, a ghost of your former self or its former self, and your former self, a person, the person that you used to be. He's a shadow of his former self. I think I'm going to give this a 5 in formality. I think you could use it anywhere. So, ghost of your former self, shadow of your former self, shell of your former self. Bye for now.